Welcome to this third video of MONARC training. We will see how we can create a risk analysis and how to apply the first step in MONARC analysis. From now on, there is one strong advice that I want to give you. This video and the next following will be how to use MONARC on most cases and should be enough for most usage. If you search for something specific, then do not hesitate to get directly to the step you are in, as it may answer your question. If you have no idea on where to begin, it is highly suggested to watch this video and repeat every manipulation to see and learn how to proceed to use MONARC the best way possible. With that out of the way, we can now begin. To create a new risk analysis, you have to click on this left menu, Create a Risk Analysis. If you don't see this menu, this is because the left menu is folded and you need to click on the three vertical lines near the Home indication. Once you have clicked, a new sub-window should appear. There is two different categories that you have to fill. The first category is the source of the risk analysis. The second is everything that concerns the description of the risk analysis. To create the risk analysis, you first need to choose what the risk analysis will be based on. If you choose to create one from a risk model, you will have to choose the different available models. In the case of our instance here, we have two models that are available: the blank model or the cases model. The blank model means that you will start your risk analysis with no predefined assets in your library. The cases model represents a bunch of predefined assets with their risks. If you base your risk analysis on an existing one, you need to choose a risk analysis that you have at least the read rights. The risk analysis you will have will be a clone of the one you just selected, that you can modify without changing the original one. In the description category, the first field concerns the language, and is the most important one as it will define and lock the language for the analysis. In MONARC, it is important to understand that there is two different languages: the interface itself and the risk analysis. Having your interface in English doesn't mean your analysis will appear in English, especially if you have built it in another language. It is also important to understand that you can't import an asset that is not in the same language as your analysis to avoid inconsistencies. Then, the name of the analysis will be how the analysis will be seen by you and the others, like the administrators. The description will contain some extra information to help you describe and better understand what will be on this risk analysis. The last part are the referentials that you can add to your analysis. You can always add or delete referentials later through the knowledge base that we will see in another video. Each risk is a combination of an asset, a threat, a vulnerability, and some controls that are defined in the referentials. And then, by clicking the yellow button Create, you have successfully created your first risk analysis. Now that you have a risk analysis, let's start it with the first step. When you click on the first number, first step of the MONARC method, you can see there is 4 different substeps. You can then click on the name of the step, Risk Analysis Context, to access a text editor, where the type text will be added in the report. With the different buttons, you can make the text in bold, in italic, strike the text, change the size to make it a title, make an unnumbered list or make a numbered list. The two buttons on the right represent next or previous action if you want to navigate back to another version of your text. Last but not least, there is an information button, which gives you all the contextual information that you should put in this part. You can also click on the given categories to add a title. Once you have entered all the text that you wanted to add in this category, do not forget to save by clicking the yellow button. If you click the cancel option or hit the cross, your progress won't be saved. In the report template, this text will be written with the tag $context-ANA-risk. And finally, once you have completed this step, do not forget to check the tick box to indicate MONARC that you have finished this step. It can be important, as MONARC may give you more options on the future as you complete the steps. The next sub-step will be the evaluation of trends and threat and synthesis. In this step, you should answer a bunch of different questions. Those questions can be changed in the MONARC back office. They were thought to be asked in the first interviews to better understand the context of the company and thus better understand the risk analysis reasons. You can either add a free text or multiple choice questions. You can also add a question specific to this risk analysis, and adding one here won't have any repercussion elsewhere. The question you had will only be a free text field, and then you can add the question itself and then the answer. You can delete the question by clicking the trash can near the question. Notice that you won't be able to do that for the questions that are written on the back office, but if you don't fill any answer out, they will not appear in the report. Once you have finished, you need to get at the top of this window to access the next tab, which is the threats assessment. When you have clicked on it, the list of all the threats that are in MONARC will then appear. You can find the name of the threat, the theme, a description to better understand the threat, a comment that you can write if you want to add any remarks, the impact criteria between confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and the trend that you can estimate here. The idea behind it is that you can ask the question about the probability of the threat, and you can put all the relevant information in the command, while defining a trend that you will use when you need to define the values of the analysis. Once you have filled the threat assessment, you can either click on Save, Next, or Previous to save your progress. The Next button will also bring you to the next threat, while the Previous button will also bring you to the previous threat. You can also choose specific threat by clicking on the list of threats in the top right. The list of all the threats are defined in the knowledge base. Finally, once you have finished to fill out all the relevant threats, you will have to provide a summary in the form of a free text. Don't forget, you can have a small guideline by clicking the Information button and use all the options in the text editor if you want to add some format detail on your text. And once you have finished the step, you can save, close the sub-window, and tick the checkbox to validate this step.
The next step is the risk management organization, and if you click on this step, you will enter in this substep. This is also a free text to fill with a bunch of informations that you can find on the button information. By default, on this one, there is no clickable titles. You can modify the text with the buttons that are on the text editor. Once you have entered all the text that you wanted to add in this category, do not forget to save by clicking the yellow button. If you click on the cancel option or the cross, your progress won't be saved. In the report template, this text will be written with the tag $context-gest-risk. And finally, once you have completed this step, do not forget to check the tick box to indicate MONARC that you have finished this step. The last sub-step is the definition of the risk evaluation criteria, which is the definition of the different scales of the risk analysis. The screen got a lot of information. Let's see them. Now, under the Information Risk tab, you will first see the Impact and Consequences scale. You can see the scale goes, by default, from 0 to 4. You can of course modify these by just clicking on the numbers. You can have, for instance, a scale that goes from 1 to 10. It is important though to understand that the scale that you have deleted that way, for instance the 0 stage that does not exist anymore here, are just hidden and are still there. If we put again the 0 stage, the description we had are restored. You can't add an impact, but you can add a consequence with the plus on the right. The default impact are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The default consequences are reputation, operational, legal, financial, or personal. If you add a consequence, you can delete it by clicking on the orange trash can near it. You can also hide a consequence by clicking the stroke eye near it. If you have hidden a consequence by mistake, you just need to click on the Show Hidden Impact option and click on the eye near the consequence to make it reappear. Hide consequence is often used if you think that one type of them does not apply to your context. If you want now to edit a specific part of the scale, you just need to click on the box that you want to edit. In order to quit this edition mode, you can either click outside the tab, or you can input Command on macOS or Control on Windows plus the Enter key on your keyboard. The two next scales are the likelihood and the vulnerability scale. You can modify them on the same fashion than the impact and consequences scale. You can modify the blue upper or lower limit by clicking on them. In the same fashion, you can modify the description of the scale by clicking on them. Below the scale of informational risks, you have the acceptance thresholds. You can only use 3 different colors: green, orange, and red. The indicated value represents the higher limit for the green color, meaning in this example that all the values that are at 8 or below 8 will be represented in green. The value that will be colored will be the value of the risk, and this value is calculated by the formula impact times threat times vulnerability. If we had some values in the scale before, you will see this matrix will be adapted automatically, though the threshold will not change. Going to the second tab, which is for the operational risks, you will see a very similar structure than the last one. Here, the impact scales can only be defined by the number of levels. Unlike the last scale, you can delete the impact that you do not want to by clicking the trash can on the right. You can then select the one you want to delete and confirm it by clicking the orange delete button. You can also cancel the operation if you click on it by mistake. In the same fashion, you can modify the text for each impact in the matrix, including the number that represent each levels. For instance, You can change them if you don't want the zero in them. You can also change the text and the scales for the likelihood scale and all the acceptance thresholds. The last tab concerns the compliance and the scale level that you can have. You can change the numbers of levels, the description of these, and the color which is associated. The color chooser will depend on your operating system. And finally, once you have completed this step, do not forget to check the tick box to indicate MONARC that you have finished this step. And with that, you have finished the first major step of the MONARC method. The last thing that you can do is to download the deliverable. In order to do that, just click the yellow indication of the deliverable in the context establishment window. You will have multiple fields to fill out. The status, where you have to choose to produce a draft document or a final document made for the presentation to the management. You can then choose the template that you want to use. You can put some information such as the version, the classification of the document name, the organization the report is addressed to, and the author of the document. If at some point you didn't put any text in the field that were required, the tag will be replaced by a blank. Once you have ensured that the report is enoughly descriptive for you and the management that it will be addressed to, you can check with them and take the first decisions for this risk analysis. And that's it for this video. The next video should be around the second step in the MONARC method. I wish you a nice day, and I will see you on the next videos.